I was standing in the driveway, with one duffel bag at my feet, and my mother's voice still ringing in my ears. "If you're so ungrateful, then leave. We don't need you here." My father didn't even look at me. He just stood there with his arms crossed, nodding along like she'd said something reasonable. My younger brother smirked from the doorway, phone in hand, probably texting his friends about the free show. I was 26 years old, and I'd just been thrown out of the house I'd been paying the mortgage on for 3 years. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I picked up my bag, walked to my car, and drove away. My hands were shaking so badly, I had to pull over 2 blocks away just to breathe. I sat there in a grocery store parking lot at 9:30 on a Tuesday night, staring at my bank app. Checking account, $4,000. Savings, $11,000. That was it. That was everything I had left after bleeding myself dry for them. The thing is, I didn't see it coming. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't want to believe it. I'd been living in that house since I graduated college, and for the first year, it made sense. I was building my career, saving money, helping out with bills. My parents had always struggled financially. Dad's construction business barely broke even most months, and Mom worked part-time at a dental office, but spent more than she earned. When they sat me down 4 years ago and told me they were 3 months behind on the mortgage, I didn't hesitate. I offered to help. That's when it started. Small at first. I paid 1 month, then another. Then they asked if I could cover the internet bill, since I worked from home. Then groceries, because I ate there too, right? Then the electric bill, because Mom said it was so high because of my laptop and phone chargers. Within 6 months, I was covering 70% of the household expenses. Within a year, I was covering everything. My brother, Jake, was 23 and still lived at home. He worked at a vape shop 20 hours a week and spent his paychecks on weed, video games, and DoorDash meals he'd eat in his room. He didn't contribute a single dollar. When I brought it up once, Mom looked at me like I'd suggested drowning a puppy. "He's still figuring things out," she said. "You can't expect him to carry the weight you do. You're more capable." More capable. That phrase haunted me. It was the excuse for everything. Why I had to cover Dad's truck payment when his business had a bad month. Why I had to pay for Mom's dental work. Why I had to give Jake gas money because he needed to visit his girlfriend 2 hours away every weekend. I was more capable, so I was more responsible. And if I ever hesitated, if I ever said I was stretched too thin, I was selfish. I was forgetting where I came from. I was ungrateful for everything they'd done for me. But the real breaking point came 3 months before they kicked me out. I was sitting at the kitchen table, working on a project that was due the next day, when Mom came in holding her phone. She didn't say hello. She just launched into it. "Your father and I have been talking, and we think it's time you helped us with something bigger." I looked up. She had that tone. The one that wasn't really asking. "We want to refinance the house," she said. "Get a better rate, lower the payments. But the bank said we need a co-signer with better credit." "Your credit is perfect, right?" I stared at her. "You want me to co-sign a refinance on a house I don't own?" "It's not like that," she said quickly. "You're already helping with payments. This would just make it easier for everyone. Lower monthly costs. You'd actually be paying less. But if you default, it destroys my credit." Her face hardened. "We're not going to default. God, do you really think so little of us? This is your family, and we're asking for help." I thought you understood what family meant. I felt it then. That tightness in my chest. The same one I'd been ignoring for 3 years. I told her I needed to think about it. She didn't speak to me for 2 days. I didn't co-sign. I couldn't. I'd been researching what it meant, and every financial advisor on the internet said the same thing. Never co-sign a loan for someone who can't qualify on their own. It's not cruelty. It's survival. But my parents didn't see it that way. My father started making comments about how I was keeping my money to myself now. Jake made jokes about me being stingy. Mom would sigh loudly whenever I was around, like my presence was exhausting. Then one night, I came home from a work dinner and found them all in the living room. I could tell immediately something was off. Mom was sitting with her arms folded. Dad was stone-faced. Jake looked smug. "We need to talk," Mom said. I set my bag down slowly. Okay. This isn't working anymore, she said. You've been keeping yourself separate from this family. You don't help the way you used to. You're pulling back. We can feel it. I'm paying for everything, I said quietly. I don't know what you mean. It's not about the money, she snapped. It's about attitude. About loyalty. You said no when we needed you most, and that told us everything we need to know. I looked at my father. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Jake. He was grinning. So, what are you saying? I asked. We're saying maybe you'd be happier living somewhere else, Mom said. If this family's such a burden to you. I felt something crack open inside me. Not sadness. Not even anger. Just clarity. You're kicking me out because I wouldn't co-sign your loan. We're asking you to think about whether you really want to be here. I looked around that living room, at the furniture I'd helped pay for, the TV I'd bought them last Christmas, the bills stacked on the counter with my bank account number on the auto-pay confirmations. Fine, I said. I'll go. Mom blinked. She hadn't expected that. Tonight? Yes. Tonight. That's when she got mean. Good. Take your attitude with you. We'll figure it out like we always have. I went upstairs, packed one bag, and left. I didn't take anything I couldn't carry. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just left. I stayed in a hotel that night. A mid-range chain off the highway, the kind with free breakfast and a chlorine smell in the hallways. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. 43 unread messages in the family group chat. I didn't open them. I already knew what they'd say. The next morning, I opened my banking app and started going through everything. Every transfer. Every autopay. Every Venmo request I'd approved without question. I pulled 3 years of records and made a spreadsheet. It took me 4 hours. The total came to $74,000. $74,000 I had given them. Not loaned. Given. Because every time I'd handed over money, it was framed as helping, as contributing, as being part of the family. There were no signed agreements. No repayment plans. Just my mom's voice saying, "We'll pay you back when things are better," and my father's silent nods. Things never got better. I sat there in that hotel room, looking at the number. $74,000. That was a down payment on a house. That was a new car paid in cash. That was 2 years of freedom and safety. And I'd given it all away because I thought I owed them something. I didn't cry. I just got to work. I spent the next 2 weeks moving into a small one-bedroom apartment across town. It was older, a little worn, but it was mine. I paid first, last, and deposit without blinking. I bought a bed, a couch, and a coffee maker. I set up my workspace. I went to work every day and came home every night to silence. And for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I could breathe. My phone never stopped buzzing. Mom called 18 times in the first week. I didn't answer. Jake sent me a string of messages asking when I was going to stop being dramatic and come home. I didn't respond. My father sent one text. "Your mother is upset. You need to apologize." I blocked all of them, but I didn't stop there. I went into every single account I'd been paying and removed my payment information. The mortgage autopay, the electric company, the internet provider, the credit card I'd been making minimum payments on for my mother. I canceled every single recurring transaction tied to their household. Then I called the mortgage company. I told them I had been making unauthorized payments on someone else's loan, and I needed a record of every payment I'd made, along with confirmation that I had no legal obligation to the property. They sent me a PDF with 3 years of transaction history. My name wasn't on the mortgage. I had no ownership stake. I had just been handing them money. I saved that PDF. Then I called a lawyer. Not to sue. Just to ask questions. I wanted to know if I had any legal recourse to recover what I'd given them. The consultation was free. The lawyer was kind but clear. "Without a written agreement, you have no case," she said. "Gifts aren't recoverable. And if you were living there, they could argue you were paying rent." "I was paying more than rent," I said. "I was paying everything." "I believe you," she said. "But belief doesn't hold up in court." My advice? Walk away. Don't give them another cent. So that's what I did. I walked away. For a month, I heard nothing. I assumed they'd figured it out, that they'd adjusted, found other income, maybe even learned something. I didn't wish harm on them. I just wanted distance. Then my phone rang at 6 in the morning. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this her? The woman's voice asked. Who is this? This is Sharon from First National Mortgage. I'm calling because your parents are 90 days past due, and we're beginning foreclosure proceedings. Your number is listed as a secondary contact. My stomach dropped. I don't live there anymore. I understand, but we've been unable to reach them. Do you know how we can contact them? I gave her their numbers and hung up. Then I stared at the ceiling, my heart pounding. 90 days. That meant they'd missed the payment the first month after I left. And instead of calling me, instead of apologizing or asking for help, they'd just ignored it. Let it pile up. Assumed I'd come crawling back. I didn't call them. But 2 days later, my mom called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. We're losing the house, she said. No greeting. No apology. Just accusation. I heard. You did this. I closed my eyes. I stopped paying your bills. That's not the same thing. You abandoned us. You left us with nothing. I left you with the same bills you had before I started helping. You survived before me. You can survive after. We can't. Her voice cracked. We're going to lose everything. Your father's business is barely hanging on. I'm working extra shifts, and it's not enough. Jake can't help. He doesn't make anything. You were the one holding this together, and you just walked away. You threw me out because you were being selfish. I felt it again. That bright, cold clarity. I gave you $74,000, I said quietly. Silence. I have the records. Every transfer. Every payment. $74,000 in 3 years. I wasn't selfish. I was a paycheck you got to guilt into staying. That's not. Yes, it is. And the second I set a boundary, you kicked me out.
So no, Mom.
I didn't abandon you. You threw me away the moment I stopped being useful. I hung up. My hands were steady. That night, Jake started texting me. Not from his number, from someone else's phone. The messages were unhinged. Calling me a bitch. Saying I'd ruined the family. Saying I'd always been stuck up and selfish. Saying I owed them. I screenshotted every message. I didn't reply. I just saved them in a folder labeled evidence. Because I knew what was coming. 3 weeks later, I got served. Small claims court. My parents were suing me for financial abandonment and demanding I pay $20,000 to cover what they claimed were shared household expenses I'd agreed to take on. I read the filing in my car outside my apartment. I didn't feel shocked. I felt vindicated. They were claiming I'd entered a verbal contract to support the household, that I'd lived there rent-free and owed back payments, that I'd promised to help with the mortgage and then maliciously withdrawn support. Every word was a lie, and I had proof. I hired the lawyer I'd consulted with before. Her name was Linda, and she was in her 50s with the kind of sharp energy that made me feel safe. I showed her everything. The spreadsheets, the bank records, the mortgage company's letter, the text messages from Jake, the voicemail from my mother. Linda smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. They're going to regret this, she said. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. In that time, my parents tried everything. My mom called from different numbers, leaving voicemails that swung wildly between begging and threatening. My father sent an email saying he just wanted to talk, daughter to father. Jake showed up at my apartment once, banging on the door and yelling. I called the police. He left before they arrived, but I filed a report anyway. I didn't waver. Not once. I went to work. I went to the gym. I read books in my quiet apartment and slept through the night without someone demanding something from me. I remembered what peace felt like. The day of the hearing, I wore a simple black blouse and gray slacks. Professional.
Calm.
I brought a folder with every document I'd collected, organized with color-coded tabs. Linda had prepped me on what to expect, but she'd also told me something that stuck with me. They're going to try to make you feel guilty, she'd said. They're going to perform for the judge.
Let them.
You just tell the truth. My parents showed up looking like victims. Mom had clearly been crying. Dad wore his nicest flannel shirt and looked exhausted. Jake didn't come. Smart of him. The judge was a middle-aged woman with reading glasses and a no-nonsense expression. She read the complaint, then looked at my parents. You're suing your daughter for financial abandonment.
Explain.
My mother launched into it. How I'd lived with them for years. How I'd promised to help. How I'd suddenly and cruelly cut them off, leaving them in a financial disaster.
She cried.
She said she didn't understand how her own daughter could be so heartless. She said family was supposed to mean something. The judge listened without expression. Then she turned to me. Your response. I opened my folder. Linda stood beside me. Your Honor, I have bank records showing that over a 3-year period, I transferred $74,000 to my parents and paid numerous household bills directly. These were not loans. They were presented to me as contributions to a shared household. However, I was not on the mortgage, the lease, or any ownership documents. I have a letter from the mortgage company confirming that I had no legal obligation to the property. I slid copies across to the judge. She took them, scanning quickly. When I declined to co-sign a refinance loan, my parents asked me to leave. I have text messages confirming this. I then stopped making payments on bills that were not my legal responsibility. My parents did not contact me for a month after I left. The first contact I received was from their mortgage company informing me of foreclosure proceedings. The judge looked at my mother. Is this accurate? Mom's face crumpled. She was family. She lived there. She benefited from the home. Did you charge her rent? No, but did you have a written agreement outlining financial responsibilities? We didn't need one. She's our daughter. The judge's expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. So, you provided housing, and she voluntarily contributed to expenses. She promised. Verbal promises regarding informal family arrangements are not enforceable contracts, the judge said, especially when the plaintiff cannot demonstrate any harm caused by the defendant's withdrawal beyond the natural consequences of their own financial mismanagement. My mother's lawyer tried to argue. He brought up moral obligation, family duty, the emotional harm of abandonment. The judge cut him off. This court does not enforce familial guilt. The defendant had no legal obligation to continue financial support. The claim is dismissed. She banged the gavel. I felt Linda squeeze my shoulder. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just gathered my folder and walked out. In the hallway, my mother tried to corner me. Are you happy now? She hissed. You've destroyed us. I looked at her. Really looked at her. And I felt nothing. You destroyed yourselves, I said quietly. I just stopped letting you destroy me too. I walked away.
She didn't follow.
That was 8 months ago. I haven't spoken to any of them since. I heard through a distant cousin that they lost the house. They're renting a smaller place now. My father's business folded. Jake still lives with them. I don't know the details and I don't ask. My life is small now, but it's mine. I got a promotion at work. I started therapy, which helped me understand just how deep the manipulation went and how normal I'd thought it all was. I've been on a few dates. I adopted a cat. I'm rebuilding my savings, and every dollar I put away feels like a reclamation. Sometimes I think about what I lost. Not the money, the fantasy. The idea that if I just gave enough, loved enough, sacrificed enough, my family would see me as more than a resource. That they'd value me. But they never did. And once I stopped pretending otherwise, everything became clear. I don't regret leaving. I don't regret protecting myself. I don't regret setting boundaries, even when it meant losing people I loved. Because here's the thing I learned. You can't save people who are drowning if they're determined to pull you under with them. And you don't owe anyone your life just because they're family. The proof I came back with wasn't just documents and bank records. It was the proof that I could survive without them. That I was worth more than what I could provide. That my value wasn't tied to my usefulness. And that's the proof they could never take away from me. I sleep well now. I wake up without dread. I make decisions based on what I want, not what someone else needs from me. I've started saying no without guilt. I've started saying yes to things that make me happy. That duffel bag I left with? I still have it. It sits in my closet, a reminder of the night I chose myself. Some people might see it as a symbol of loss. I see it as a symbol of freedom, because I didn't lose my family that night. I lost my chains, and I've never been lighter. So, if you're watching this and you see yourself in my story, if you're the person everyone calls when they need something but no one calls just to see how you're doing, if you're tired of being the responsible one, the capable one, the one who has to sacrifice so everyone else can be comfortable, I want you to ask yourself something. What would your life look like if you stopped setting yourself on fire to keep other people warm? You already know the answer. The question is whether you're ready to walk toward it. I was. And I'd make the same choice 1,000 times over. Because the only person you're truly responsible for saving is yourself. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is save yourself first. They threw me out with one bag. I came back with proof. Proof that I didn't need them. Proof that I was enough, all on my own. And that proof set me free.